You're listening to a special podcast series brought to you by the American Senior Alliance, a nonpartisan, not-for-profit organization that advocates on behalf of America's greatest generation. The Alliance strives to be a trusted source of unbiased information for seniors and policymakers. This special podcast series focuses on ways we can protect seniors from abuse. Now, your host, American Senior Alliance Executive Director, Conwell Hooper.
Welcome to our American Senior Alliance Shares podcast. We're continuing with our Scams on the Elderly series. As we prepare for our next guest, chances are very good that a thief, scam artist, or fraudster is scheming an elderly citizen out of their life savings as we begin today's podcast. A recent United States Senate Committee on Aging reported seniors are losing $2.9 billion annually from financial exploitation. That's $2.9 billion with a B. On our first podcast in this series, we heard from the experts on how to protect yourself from investment scams. Today, we're going to talk with Louisiana Attorney General Jeff Landry about some of the latest scams that are making their way around Louisiana and the nation. General Landry is known across Louisiana and America as an outstanding attorney general who doesn't hesitate to roll up his sleeves and get in the trenches to protect our older Americans from fraud and scams. The attorney general is the top legal officer for their state, advising the state legislature and state agencies. But most importantly, the attorney general is the people's lawyer. If you follow General Landry on Facebook, Twitter, or other media outlets, you will see firsthand how effective he is fighting crime. Welcome, General Landry. Thank you for taking time to join us today.
Well, thank you for having me today. I really appreciate it.
General Landry, we know that COVID-19 has wreaked havoc on our older population. Our seniors are at risk from the virus, but they may be more at risk from scammers, aren't they?
They are. It's unfortunately, we've seen an increase in senior fraud throughout this COVID-19 pandemic. These scam artists know that seniors are especially at risk during COVID. And of course, they target our elderly who are unusually isolated at this time at home or separated from their family and their normal support networks.
General Landry, what types of scams are you seeing these days?
Well, one of the most common that we're seeing is targeting Medicare beneficiaries. Fraudsters are basically offering free COVID tests in exchange for personal data, including their their Medicare information.
Yeah, we're seeing that running rampant across the country. It's just an absolute troubling situation for our older seniors, General Landry. This isn't just happening in Louisiana, though, right?
No, look, senior fraud is a national issue. I'd read, I'd actually lead a bipartisan effort along with Attorney General Josh Call of Wisconsin in urging Congress to include Edith's bill in coronavirus relief legislation. Now, Edith's bill would amend the Victims of Crime Act of 1984 to include senior fraud victims and making them eligible for reimbursement via Crime Victims Fund. Our own Senator Bill Cassidy here in Louisiana is helping us lead that effort in the Senate.
Well, that's outstanding. I know being Louisiana's Attorney General, the former president of the National Attorney Generals Association, a former U.S. congressman, joining the National Guard in high school, working your way up to be sergeant, serving in Desert Storm, and even earning the Army Achievement and Army Commendation medals. You've earned quite a reputation, quite an impressive reputation for being quite a leader while helping others. That's truly remarkable. So this great bill that you've taken on to kind of lead 44 other attorney generals across the country is known as the Edith Law, and it's a bipartisan bill.
Yeah, it's a great bill. Look, again, both myself and 43 other colleagues believed in this bill and believed that seniors should be eligible for reimbursement via the Crime Victims Fund. And the Crime Victims Fund is a fund that was set up, like I said, in 1984, under which the fines and ill-gotten gains of criminals in the federal justice system, that's where that money is deposited to.
Well, you guys are on the front lines every single day. The attorney generals are fighting every day for people across their states against fraud and abuse. I know, General Landry, many of our seniors are living on fixed incomes, and the savings that they've earned from a lifetime of work. One simple phone call can wipe out those savings. It's rare for seniors to get their money back. But Edith's law takes a step to provide compensation to those defrauded seniors without using taxpayer dollars. That's fantastic.
That's correct.
So when we get through coronavirus, General Landry, do you expect senior fraud to decline?
No, unfortunately. Look, we saw senior fraud, scams against seniors consistently on the rise even before coronavirus. 1 in 5 Americans are expected to be over 65 by the year 2030, right? So we have the baby boomers are aging rapidly, and studies show that senior citizens, they're more likely to fall prey to those targets. And so again, that type of fraud, senior fraud, it's just not going away. And of course, as we mentioned earlier, Medicaid fraud is just one of many.
Yes, sir. I know these fraud artists are just preying on our older Americans. We're seeing so much during this coronavirus, and these scams are running rampant. What are some of the other common elder fraud schemes?
Well, some of the other scams are like romance scams, tech support scams, government impersonation scams, sweepstakes scams, home repair scams, especially after natural disaster, caregiver scams, and the really despicable one are like the grandparent scams, where they call and pretend to either be a grandchild or claim that they're a friend of a grandchild, and the grandchild is incapacitated, incoherent in the hospital, and they need money to help him.
Yeah, we see that one, General Landry, running rampant all across America. I have some good friends. In fact, we get calls almost every day of somebody getting hit with that grandparent scam, and we're hearing anything from $2,000 on up to $100,000 that they've been scammed out of on that grandparent scam. What General Landry, can seniors do to protect themselves from some of these scams?
Most importantly, they can educate themselves on how to recognize scam attempts. So the best way is to understand exactly what to look for, to resist the pressure to act quickly. Call law enforcement if they feel that there is an imminent danger. Be cautious of unsolicited phone calls, mailings, door-to-door services. Never give or send any personal identifiable information, and know that every red flag is raised when someone is asking for a payment for like a prepaid gift card. We have a number of tips to help protect yourself at our website at agjefflandry.com, and we encourage seniors to go to that website and to check out some of those tips. The best way to not be scammed is to be educated about ways to protect yourself.
Yeah, I suspect always being cautious, especially unsolicited information. It sounds like these scam artists are always after, the information. I was talking, General Landry, to a law enforcement officer one day. He said, Conwell, he said, we're not as concerned about, the hit at the beginning. We're concerned about the information, because the information is what they're trying to gather to be able to get the big money, maybe their retirement account or something along those lines, something they've earned, and worked for their whole life. That one simple phone call, it can kind of go up in smoke. So, General Landry, is there a number our listeners can call if they feel they or a loved one is an elder fraud victim?
Yeah, look. When if people believe that there's imminent danger, we certainly encourage them to call 911 and to make the complaint with their local law enforcement. They're welcome to call our Consumer Protection Hotline after at 800-351-4889. And in other states, they can call their state attorney generals. And of course, we always encourage you to call the FBI as well, because there may be some federal laws and some resources that the FBI can give to them.
Yeah, you were responsible for starting the Louisiana Investigative Bureau too, right?
Yeah, we when we came into office, we reformed the investigative unit that was inside the Louisiana Department of Justice into a division called the Louisiana Bureau of Investigation.
That's impressive. So, say when somebody's suffered, some kind of elder crime, what should they have ready when they make a complaint of elder fraud?
Well, that's a great question. So when you're going to report, when you're going to go out and you are going to report a scam, there's a list of information that you really do need in order to help them, to help law enforcement do their job. So you should be able to have with you as many details as possible. The name of the scammer, dates of contact, methods of communication. If you've got phone numbers, if you got like a phone number, if they call on your cell phone, and you can give law enforcement the phone number they called on. Email addresses, if it was via electronic, mailing addresses or the actual mail that you received, websites that they may have directed you to, the method of payment, where those method of payments were sent, the description of the interaction with the scammer, or instructions that the scammer gave you. All great tidbits of information that law enforcement can use in order to try to bring these scammers to justice.
That's great to know. I think it's so important when these victims are filing that complaint to be able to gather as much information as they can to be able to share it when they do make their call. I suppose that gives you all and law enforcement a better chance of being able to potentially recover, that's maybe some of those funds. What about physical items, emails, faxes, etc.?
All of those are great to have. Yes, any physical documentations that you may have, the letters, actual emails that you can either print out or forward to the law enforcement, faxes, again, logs of communication, anything that you have that's tangible that we can use to help trace down the scammers is important to pass on to law enforcement.
General Landry, with so many of these cases of this type of elder abuse that's going on, in Louisiana and across the country, will these victims get justice?
Look, I'm not in a position to predict that. I mean, only the good Lord could, but I know that my office is on the front lines investigating, arresting, and educating to help stop the awful occurrence of seniors being targeted and preyed upon by scammers. That's why we put the information on our website at AG Jeff Landry on the best way to protect yourself. Because the most help that we can give is by educating seniors to keep them from falling prey to these types of scams.
Yes, sir. You have, one thing that your team there at the office do really well is being able to share information with not only people there in Louisiana, but across the country. You do an outstanding job of being able to share and educate on various type of frauds and scams. I know you have lots of open meetings where people can talk and all, and across Louisiana. And your team has done a truly remarkable job of being able to share ways to kind of help protect yourself from these type of scams.
Oh, no, absolutely. Look, one of the things that one of the success stories that we've had is we were able to arrest a Nigerian on charges of felony theft in excess of $5,000 on bank fraud, money laundering, and racketeering. And it was a collaborative effort between law enforcement agencies across the nation. And we followed our investigation into the Metro Washington Airport and at Dulles and arrested the guy as he re-entered the United States, and then extradited him to Louisiana, where we booked him in the jail here and is awaiting trial.
Wow, that that is truly remarkable. You've done a great job of bringing everybody together, and it's great to hear of law enforcement all working together.
Yeah, it really is. It's a team effort. It's interesting. In this particular case, it was an elderly female victim who was told by the scammer that he was an employee of the Department of Homeland Security and found a piece of luggage containing money that he wanted to return to her. And when we got proof that the Nigerian received the money and that he attempted to conceal his crime through bank wire transfers and a third party, we were able to track him down.
Wow. Hey, if you can share, how much did the elderly woman give him?
She was out about $8,900, which is no small number. Unfortunately, that's not the biggest case ever. But again, $8,900 on someone who may have been living on a fixed income could be, their life savings.
Well, you're exactly right. In fact, we see it all across America. A lot of our older adults are living on fixed income, so every penny counts. I mean, if that could have been her nest egg stored up to be able to pay for prescription drugs, or maybe to pay her, her power bill, or groceries, things like that. So every dollar really matters to our elderly, especially those living on fixed incomes. That's just great work, General Landry. Hey, if we can shift gears back to these perilous times, mm-hmm. have there been any COVID-19 related consumer issues affecting our seniors?
We definitely saw issues surrounding the CARES Act stimulus money, and not only were scammers trying to trick seniors into parting with their money, but we also saw nursing homes and long-term care facilities attempting to keep that money for themselves in some instances, instead of giving that money to the person that it was intended to help.
Wow. What basis would the nursing homes have for saying trying to keep those stimulus checks?
Well, usually Medicaid recipients have to sign over monetary resources to nursing homes where they live, but that doesn't apply to the stimulus checks issued as part of the CARES Act. Congress identified these funds as tax credits, and tax credits don't count as a resource for these purposes. So it was really important for our office to make sure that these stimulus checks went out to help seniors, and they went directly into seniors' pockets.
Were there other concerns around the stimulus money?
Yeah, we saw a lot of confusion when some people received their stimulus money on debit cards. Again, it was kind of great that people were being cautious. So it meant that some of the warnings and information we were giving out, like today, is actually sinking in. But unfortunately, some of these people were a little too cautious and threw away those stimulus cards. So our office worked to educate people on what to look for and what to expect when receiving these debit cards in the mail, and how to protect their cards and personal information once they arrive.
General, you've done an outstanding job on social media, providing information about fraud. For those listening that haven't seen your social media, where can they find you?
Well, they can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at the @ AG Jeff Landry. That's the @ at AG Jeff Landry. And there on those pages, we continually post tips and alerts on various frauds we're seeing. And again, our website has an abundant amount of information. They can go to agjefflandry.com.
General Landry, that's outstanding. We're so grateful that you took the time today to help educate us on how we can protect our older, vulnerable seniors. Well, we're going to have to let you get back to work. You have been a workhorse at the state and federal level, protecting our elders from fraud, scams, and abuse. We thank you for your extraordinary service and what you're doing for the wonderful citizens of Louisiana. We're grateful for your outstanding tips today to help keep our older adults safe.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, sir. Are there any tips to protect our seniors? A couple words of wisdom you want to share before we sign off?
Again, I'd ask all the seniors to go to our website at agjefflandry.com, where they can find a number of those tips. You can get somebody to print it out for you, or you can write it down and post it up in your kitchen or next to your telephone by wherever you lay your phone down, regularly. And that way you'll know that it'll be fresh in your mind.
That's fantastic, General Landry. Thanks a million again, and we appreciate the great work that you and your staff and your team there in Louisiana do to protect our older adults. We hope you have an awesome week and look forward to visiting with you again.
Thank you.